the stuff you're doing with OpenClaw, okay? How important is that for the average headhunter if they don't develop that level of expertise by the end of the year?
I don't know if I can answer that question other than to tell you it's finding people that I did not find on my own twice that I'm very good chance I'm going to place both of them. Right? So
okay, well, hold on a second. You were saying the same thing with deep research.
It's amazing.
And Manus.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Okay, well, which is best then? Deep research?
Manus is too expensive. Manus is too expensive. The research is relatively the same because you're giving it where to search and what to do, right? So I'm saying to it, search these 50 companies, search this directory, then search this directory, then do an X-ray search, then look at
right? Let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you. Okay, hold on. The thing is, though, Manus is very easy to use, and OpenClaw is not easy to set up and get used to. Okay, there's a huge difference there, right? The average person is better off spending money on Manus than trying to figure out how to be an OpenClaw expert.
Oh, yes, Manus is easier. But at the end of the day, they're an agent that you're building. You're telling it what to do. Every single thing I've done, I've told it specifically, use this API key for my enrichment, then use this API key for my enrichment as we build the enrichment tool. When I'm telling it to do the job finder, search these places for jobs, these companies for jobs, these websites.
But you're never going back to deep research on TypingMind, right?
Not for that stuff. No, not at all.
Because it sounds like TypingMind, which you promoted, honestly, is no longer relevant for you.
So that deep research is no longer relevant, but I still do it every day just for simple stuff like, hey, like for example, when I was building out one of the tools in OpenClaw, I found a list of all the erectors in an industry that I work. I took the entire, which had like all this like stuff in it, dropped it into TypingMind into one of the API keys for like for OpenAI or Claude or whatever, and said, hey, take this information. I only want the company names, remove the LLC and the Inc., and put it in the Boolean format of OR. And boom, it did that for me. Then I dropped a tool that said, when you do the job scan search these companies for jobs. Actually, no, that was for a candidate search. When you're doing this candidate search for project managers, estimators, and superintendents, use these companies as part of the search. So now when it does a Boolean search, it does, superintendent and in parentheses or any of these companies.
So Todd, how much does it cost you to run ClawBot?
So Claude is 20. You have to get the Anthropic subscription, so you're not burning through. So $20 a month for the Anthropic Claude, which you have. Open up, go to your Mac right now. Open up Terminal and install Claude Code. That will never screw your computer up, and it'll be the best assistant to start out to help you do stuff. And if you don't, go to OpenClaw. Now, OpenClaw is the other one, right? OpenClaw, what you're going to do, want to do OpenClaw, right? Everybody's going to tell you not to install it on your own computer, go buy another Mac, or do a virtual private server. The VPSs, everything I've read about it, there's some security issues, and it's a lot harder to set up. That's why I said in the meeting, I'm not even going to attempt to talk about VPSs, right? But the idea that I'm looking at is I'm giving it access to all my files, except for my financial stuff, right? And so it can build stuff for me and use resumes. It can use rebuttals, all the stuff that I fucking have in my files, right? And that's where OpenClaw is. So the cost of OpenClaw is whatever API key you're using. So right now I'm using Kimi 2.5, which is equal to Claude 4.6, almost like 95% for all the dinking stuff. And then I have backup keys from Gemini and OpenAI for the mundane stuff like the Intel morning briefing, meeting Intel, stuff like that, right? So that way my costs aren't going to be that high. Now, and the reason I did it that way is because even though Kimi's free right now, I get 6 months free with Kimi, and it's as good as Claude. Once that's up, if I can't read up that, I'm going to have to use Claude for the deep thinking, and I don't want to use Claude for everything because it'll cost me $1 million. I would tell you right now, if you don't have coding experience, you need to have Claude Code. Claude Code does everything for me. It builds everything for me in OpenClaw. It answers questions. I will take a skill. I found an MCP server in GitHub for Loxo that was better than the one that I built. I copied the entire GitHub text, dropped it into Claude Code, and said, I do not want you to build this. I want you to evaluate it and tell me, is this better than the MCP server we have, and should we install it? And then 5 minutes later, it came back and goes, yes, this is better, and here are the reasons why it's better and what it does. And I said, okay, great, let's install it. And it installed the entire fucking thing for me. I'm telling you, Manus is not as good as OpenClaw and Claude Code get better. It's just not. It's good, but it's not as good. And once you build it out properly, OpenClaw and Claude Code can do so much more than Manus will ever do. Now, that may change down the road since Meta bought them and will probably invest a gazillion fucking dollars in them. But as of right now, I'm having much better success with OpenClaw. And every time I need to fix something in Claw, it's free. Every time I need to fix something in Manus, it's fucking credits.
But also, everybody's saying with OpenClaw, be careful.
Yes.
There's a caution. You better know what the hell you're doing.
Correct.
Because you could be exposing yourself, and there's a big risk.
I have
So,
security protocol in place. So anytime anything ever looks weird on my computer, someone tries to get into my system, if my API key starts being overused, and it's all of a sudden,
it's the OpenClaw that you got to be careful of going into your system.
Yeah. So I have a lot of protocols set in place for that. But at the end of the day, I don't have an open Wi-Fi network, right? And I'm hardwired. I'm not using Wi-Fi. For get into my system would be, they'd have to like find me, and then if they want to find my mask, well, that's my own fault, right? But I don't download any weird stuff. I never open emails to people I don't know. I don't do anything to it. I've never had a virus ever on my computer. I've never had spyware. I've never had malware.
Are you
guess-
are you running it on a workstation or a laptop?
My Mac Studio, which is
a laptop or a workstation?
It's a workstation.
It's a little box.
It's like a giant Mac Mini. It's like 3 Mac Minis.
Like a
stacked
PC,
together.
right?
Yeah, like a PC, but it's a Mac. Yeah.
So I just mentioned that with OpenClaw just because if someone's a rookie at doing all this stuff and thinks they could go from A to Z, just be freaking careful.
You have to. That's why I ask it every single time. What do you think about this skill? What do you think about this? Oh, will this make me money? Will this cost me money? I ask Claude Code every single time before I do anything in OpenClaw if it makes sense, are there security vulnerabilities or anything like that. I use Claude Code as my virtual IT guy.
Okay, I want to ask Tom a question before I forget because I wanted to ask him before.
I got a
David
meeting
M.
in 10 minutes, guys, so go ahead.
Well,
Dan.
10 minutes is fine. I didn't expect everybody to stay after 1. Okay, but David M. Marr said if you learn this stuff, just even Claude Code, not even OpenClaw, I understood, if I understand him correctly, you'll be 10 times better by the end of the year. So now my question for Tom was going to be a half an hour ago. How much better is Tom Pistachio Elascio going to be in December 2026 than he was in December 2025? That's a fair question, isn't it?
I hope better. I hope more productive.
How much?
nice.
Are you going to be 10 times better?
No, not 10 times. It's finding every single time I turn around, it finds me people that I did not find. Like, for example, I didn't get a chance to assist that Barrage search I'm doing. It found me a candidate who had a weird title. It's just supervisor, but he's a rock star for the position. He lives like 20 minutes from the plant. He's got the background we're looking for. He's bilingual. And when I messaged him, he's like, hell yeah, I'm definitely interested. Let's talk. I never in a million years would have found that guy. And also, like I used to always say, well, yeah, I'm going to miss people, but my sourcing skills are good enough that I always find good candidates, which is true. I did find good candidates, but here's a great candidate that I missed.